Hey everybody, just want to talk about the week in review, about pain on the inside of your foot and ankle. And let's see, we talked about posterior tibialis, we talked about your tibial nerve, we talked about your big toe, we talked about the medial foot, the medial part, the inside of your foot and ankle and lower leg through here. So we talked about 4, maybe 5 things, and most of the treatment on when it's on the inside of your foot and ankle and lower leg, most all of it ends up being because your foot is a little bit too mobile and your foot and your lower leg strength isn't very good. And we can get into strengthening, and that could get into like an hour's worth of stuff. But the bottom line is most of the things that we talked about this week, your posterior tibialis, which ends up being posterior tibialis tendon dysfunction, but the pain right on, sometimes on the inside, right through here. Sometimes the tibial nerve ends up masking as pain there too. And tibial nerve is different. We'll review that real quick in a minute. But the inside of your foot and ankle, the whole area, when your foot is really flat, or allowed to really flatten out, not have a very good arch support at all. When your foot's really mobile, there just tends to be this pylon effect where the weight of your entire body just comes crashing down on your foot, and the foot sometimes just doesn't offer much support at all, and so it just creates an end range, kind of like your elbow going into end range and being loaded by the whole weight of your entire body. And so what ends up happening is that you develop pain along the whole thing, your lower leg, your ankle, and your foot a little bit, because the whole area just gets really irritated, because there's a pylon effect when your foot is fairly flat, or when it's really mobile and the support structure, whether it's your flip-flop or an insert or your shoe, just doesn't do the job. And so the tendonitis that can show up here ends up happening because there's weight. It is the muscle that tries to hold up most of your arch. It's the main one that tries to hold up the arch. And so if there's a continual flattening of your arch, that tendon can get irritated because it just gets loaded for so much time. Or maybe you started running for the first time, maybe you're in old shoes, maybe you started walking a little bit more, maybe you started running more intensely, maybe you started running more often, maybe you started having more mileage, all those above, and maybe your shoe just quite isn't matched for your foot type, or maybe it's a little bit older and doesn't do the job anymore. So that pylon, kind of the whole medial foot and ankle getting kind of just crushed almost, is the same mechanism as, or the same problem as posterior tibial tendonitis. Both of them happen to be a flatter arch. One just tends to be the weak domino, or the weak link in the chain, and so it just starts to get flared up and stays flared up. The big toe, same kind of thing. Let's see here. So your big toe, the thing is, when your arch kind of collapses, then your big toe starts to crowd your lesser toes because that arch collapses. And so if you had something that would buoy up your arch, like an insert on top of a really good shoe. And sorry to tell you, the good shoes for arch support tend to be kind of expensive, at least $100 or more. So the posterior tibialis tendonitis, or if you saw your dog, the PTTD, I believe, posterior tibialis tendon dysfunction, sometimes that's actually the tibial nerve. And now we'll review that, because the tibial nerve goes right along your posterior tibial tendon. And so some docs even will say that's a posterior tibial tendon dysfunction when it's probably your tibial nerve. And I see that half the time. It ends up being your tibial nerve, particularly if you've maybe had, not all the time, but maybe you've had some pain in the back of your knee, or some pain in your hip, or some on and off low back pain. Not necessarily any of those, but sometimes it just tends to kind of run along with the tibial nerve being irritated. And not all the time, but it does. But the thing is, the treatment approach, the self-assessment and self-treatment approach, to at least start the ball running before you see your doc, or before you see someone that could spend more than 5 minutes with you, like PT, chiropractor, take your pick. Someone that's like a foot and ankle specialist, maybe a podiatrist, maybe. But just to get ahead of it, most of the time when you have pain on the inside of the foot and ankle, lower leg, a lot of times it ends up being the arch just not having enough support. Let's see, Bill, maybe you're walking around in your running shoes. That's the technology goes into the running shoes. And sometimes walking around in running shoes, depending on the type of running shoes. If you have a minimalist kind of a running shoe, you don't want to be walking around on those for much. But generally all the technology goes around, in the running shoes, because people want to be able to run. And so that's why they're a little more expensive. But anyhow, just wanted to do a quick kind of weekend review about all the structures that we talked about that could be pain points. Generally, I'm going through the content in my book that is hopefully going to be released soon. The content's all there. I'm just got to get the cover done. And that's about it. Looking excited. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to be excited when it finally gets released, and hopefully helps with all you guys, just kind of going through it with you right now. But yeah, most of the treatments are about the same. You got to get a better shoe, at least a stability shoe. You got to at least, or a fairly good stability shoe, a firm stability shoe, something that helps out. Normally, if you do a good job, your foot feels fantastic. I ran into this with my mom. She's never had foot problems. All of a sudden, she starts having foot pain. And I already knew what her foot type was like. And I said, Mom, you need to get these. So it finally took, after decades, her foot just said, enough. And what ended up happening is that she stayed out of her shoe more often. And she was barefoot. And so I told her to, consider putting your shoes on, seeing how that works. And so, a couple days went by. She said, oh, there they are. So she put her shoes on, and instantly, it felt better. Not gone, but better. And so I mentioned to her, you probably need to get a brand new pair of shoes. They were like 3 years old, even though they looked like they were maybe 6 months. I sent her the inserts that I mentioned that she probably needs. And sure enough, the pain was almost gone. And so most of the time when you have foot and ankle pain on the inside, you need something that's going to help you out, a little bit more of an arch. Not hard, but firm, but forgiving, because the foot just maybe flattens out a little bit too much. And sometimes the Hoka shoes roller rocker bottom shoes end up being really helpful as a segue to your back to normal kind of running shoe. You know, most of the time, it ends up being really helpful. I say most of the time because sometimes people can't get out of the Hokas because it's a joint related issue, and that rocker on the bottom is a really nice kind of a offer for preserving progression forward without hurting yourself again. I told a gal that she was in her mid-30s, had awful kneecap pain, patellofemoral kind of arthritis because of the year she spent on turf playing soccer that also doesn't have much of an insert at all. So she was running around on almost concrete with a little bit of, you know, turf. And so sure enough, and her foot needed some help. So I asked her to consider getting the roller rocker bottom kind of inserts from Hoka. And sure enough, you know, made things feel a lot better, and she was able to at least jog without hardly any symptoms in her knee at all. So I know it helps. But other than that, and maybe some other reasons, it's a great segue into just simply continuing to enjoy life, running, and not having pain, or just walking and enjoying your day and not having pain. It's good for a lot of other pathologies, but in particular what we just kind of discussed this past week, all the pain points on the inside of your foot and ankle, it tends to all be very helpful. So anyway, hope this helps. If you guys got any questions or comments, give me a holler. I save all these videos on my my group, Running Motivation and Training League. And you guys are more than welcome to hop in and check it out and become a member. And yeah, I hope this week is restful for you guys, and you get some deep sleep and some rest with the stress that's going on. And God bless you guys. And yeah, we'll talk later. Probably tomorrow. And then maybe might take the weekend off. Take care. God bless you guys.